So during the baby stages of the Pain arc in chapter 364, this is just post Sasuke and Deidara fight, we get an interaction between Obito, Pain, and Konan, where they're talking about how Pain is now about to go hunt down Naruto. And this is chapter 364. And at the end of the chapter, not in Viz, by the way, this is in the alternate translations of the manga, because Viz doesn't translate these end of chapter weekly statements, and specifically the one I'm talking about, because they do volume by volume or whatever. For some reason, Viz just doesn't include them. They don't include them with JJK or any of the current manga going on that has little text blurbs at the end. But this one little text blurb has caused an extreme amount of drama in the Naruto community in general. From what I can tell, this was first brought to the community at large when Seth made his Minato versus Madara video, I think 2 years ago. But since then, arguments have evolved. People have gotten smarter. So people looked at this statement and tried to interpret it different ways. And there's three main ways people interpret it. And it all has to do with figuring out who the quote unquote strongest man in the Akatsuki is. Now, I say three ways, but it's kind of more than three ways. But I guess a better way to phrase it would be to three different people. You have people interpreted as Obito, the people who interpret it as Pain, and the people who interpret it as Itachi is the strongest man in the Akatsuki. This is fairly in line with not only what's happening in the story, but how people rank the Akatsuki in general. Whenever you see someone have an Akatsuki list, generally speaking, one of those three people is going to be at the top. And if they're not at the top, they're somewhere within either place 1, 2, or 3. The typical ranking I see nowadays, and the way it's been for a while now, is Obito is the strongest, Pain is the second strongest, Itachi's the third strongest. I'm not here really to rank the three of them out. I want to talk about the different interpretations of this statement and what I actually think it's referring to. So, like I said, you can interpret it all three ways for all three people, but I think the weakest way is interpreting it the way that Obito is the strongest man in the Akatsuki. Now, before I get directly into that, I do want to say that whatever this statement means, or however you interpret it, however you interpret the strongest man in the Akatsuki, it doesn't directly mean that they can't lose to the other two people here. It could mean, I don't know, maybe they could capture more Biju, maybe they're more efficient at capturing Biju, maybe they throw a harder punch, but the other two can out-hacks them, because you got to think Obito, even if you do think he's the strongest, Obito has Kamui, it's hard to hit him. Pain has Shinra Tensei, Itachi has his Mangekyo abilities. They all have hacks that they can use to fight each other with that don't necessarily have to have anything to do with hitting hard or whatever. Obito at this time also is playing up this Madara persona where he's saying that he is weak. Obito basically plays up this persona that ever since his fight with Hashirama, he's just no longer the same. Obviously we know that he's acting as Madara at this point in time, but that is his story for his Madara persona. So if you do take this into account, if you interpret it the way of Pain or Itachi, who I think both have stronger claims to it than Obito, if you think Obito beats both of them, you could say that this is Kishimoto just playing into the narrative of that Obito built up for himself so as to not contradict Obito being the actual strongest member or the actual leader of the Akatsuki. And I do think that's fairly consistent. I do think Kishimoto does things like that. He has Obito literally speak as Madara all the time. And if you watch the anime, Obito literally thinks in his Madara voice too. So this was definitely something Kishimoto did not want people finding out. Even in the data books, there's I think there's 2 Madara placements in data book 3 and a Toby placement. He goes on and on about how nobody actually knows how strong Madara is in the data books. All of Madara's stats in data book 3 have a question mark on them. Just getting the overall point across that at this point in time, it is completely fair to say Kishimoto is just playing into that, and that even if the statement is referring to Itachi or Pain, it does not directly mean that they are stronger than Obito. Now, as I said, even though I do think Obito is the strongest man in the Akatsuki, or is the stronger man of the Akatsuki, I think that this statement referring to him is definitely the weakest interpretation. The statement is specific, and I guess I'll read it now. It's taking me so long to get to this point. The statement is specific is the strongest man in the Akatsuki pursues Naruto. That's it. That's all it says. You can read the text on the side. It says nothing about it, but it says the strongest man in the Akatsuki pursues Naruto. Now, there's a couple different definitions of pursuit. I think the most common definition, or what's more than likely being used here, at least if you interpret it the way of Obito is the one pursuing Naruto, is just that he's looking for him. He's just searching for him. But Obito's not doing that at this point in time. The people who interpret it this way ignored the fact that Obito was waiting for Sasuke to go fight Itachi. And then after Sasuke went to fight Itachi and he knew that the Leaf Ninja were heading there, he went to interrupt them and stop them from going to stop the Sasuke versus Itachi fight. So I don't even think that that's a pursuit of directly Naruto, because there was, I think, 12 other ninja there that he had to stop. So I don't think it's fair to say that Obito was directly pursuing Naruto there, and he doesn't even make an effort to capture him. So that's really all there is to talk about when it comes to interpreting this statement the Obito way. I mean, it's just not fair to say that since he pursued Team 7 and since he stopped them from going to Sasuke versus Itachi and stopping the fight, that he was pursuing Naruto and the statement's referring to him. The next way to interpret this is Pain, and I think the Pain and Itachi stances, as I mentioned earlier, are both individually stronger than the Obito stance. Now, the Pain stance has a lot of context surrounding it, but so does kind of the Itachi stance, but this is the way people most commonly interpret this statement. Like I mentioned, Seth brought this statement up back in 2020, and he interpreted it as referring to Pain as well. So the context referring to this, or the context behind this that could point you in the direction of this statement is talking about Pain, is the fact that earlier on in the chapter is basically about Obito telling Konan and Pain that they need to go after Naruto. He's telling them, tell the other Akatsuki members, hurry up with the other Biju. We need to get the Nine Tails, obviously, so they could do Project Tsukunomi or whatever. So that's like contextually, or at least chapter wise, why this statement could be referring to Pain. There's a few statements in the data book, like Pain being the Akatsuki's invincible leader, no one being able to deny his power, things like that, to say that this statement would also be referring to Pain. Is basically, the argument would be that, well, there's other statements that call Pain the strongest Akatsuki member, and in order for this one to not contradict those statements, it would have to be referring to Pain as well, right? And I do think that Pain being the strongest Akatsuki member, at least physically, or at least with this jutsu, like, I don't know, he has Chibaku Tensei, he's got Chaotic Shinra Tensei, and he's obviously got the surprise advantage on his side, because a lot of people who fight Pain or engage with Pain, they don't understand his abilities. No one in this world has ever encountered the Rinnegan. And if you interpret strongest, because there's different meanings of strongest as well, if you interpret strongest as possessing skills or qualities that lead to a likelihood of success, which is one of the definitions of it, Pain definitely has a lot of those, and he definitely has a lot more of them than Itachi has. I can get into talking about Itachi's stuff and the way he could possibly be this strongest man next a little bit, but I think there's still a little bit more to cover with Pain here. There's also a data book statement that calls Pain immortal. There's some referring to Shinra Tensei that say Shinra Tensei can just negate all jutsu. Kishimoto constantly refers to Pain as God or a god, either in the data books or the original manga. They hype up Pain in this very chapter as being a man who has never lost a fight ever. So I think it's fairly consistent, or it's fairly okay to interpret this statement as Pain being the strongest man in the Akatsuki. And I don't think that too many people would have a problem with Pain overall anyway, especially at this point, considering Itachi, he's not doing too well at this point. He's sick, he's blind, whatever. This statement being in reference to Pain. Now, that does not mean that I'm excusing the Itachi position completely, because the Itachi position also has some fairly good evidence to back it up. So, like, just read the statement again. The strongest man in the Akatsuki pursues Naruto next time in pursuit of Itachi. And then in the very next chapter, Itachi and Naruto meet. This is the meeting where Itachi actually gives Naruto the crow that's supposed to carry Shisui's eye and Genjutsu Sasuke or whatever. Now in the manga, we don't get to see this right off the bat. We just know that Naruto and Itachi had an interaction and he put Naruto under Genjutsu. We don't get to learn until chapter 403, I think it is, what Itachi actually did there, and that's like a little bit past his death. It's the chapter right after Sasuke first unlocks his MS in front of the ocean when he's talking about how, oh, we're not heavy anymore, now we're Team Taka. So Itachi pursuing Naruto to give him the crow. At first, when I read the chapter, I was sort of against this because it does also say that sheer coincidence led Naruto to Itachi. And when I was first reading it, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of just misinterpreting the text here, because I thought it was saying that Itachi and Naruto's meeting was nothing but pure coincidence. But then I was like, well, that doesn't really make sense, because if you read the Itachi and Naruto interaction, it definitely seems like Itachi planned that. Like he wanted that to happen. He wanted to give Naruto the crow. It's obviously right before he goes to fight Sasuke. So, you know, does it make sense for this to be just coincidence? And it really doesn't. The chapter blurb also puts into question what Itachi has in store for Naruto. So, I mean, that is another way to look at it, saying that Itachi is the strongest man in the Akatsuki, because it says he pursues Naruto, and Itachi did pursue Naruto at that time. And I think it's fairly backed up. I mean, if you look at the conversation, if you don't believe me, you can go read it. I don't want to read the entire chapter in 403, but you can go read it or watch the episode. It definitely seems like Itachi set up this meeting and he wanted to talk to Naruto. Itachi's the one who actually runs into Naruto. Like, Naruto's running in the forest, he hears a rustle, it turns out to be Itachi, blah, 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 blah. It definitely muddies the water a little bit with the pain stuff. And like I said, I don't want to comment too much on Itachi versus Pain or how to rank these specific people. I already said earlier, I think Obito is stronger than both of them, and that this is just Kishimoto kind of playing into his Madara persona. But Itachi versus Pain, it's definitely a weird fight. Like I mentioned earlier, Itachi's not doing too well at this point. He's sick, he's going blind, but he does still have his Susanoo and his spiritual weapons or whatever. And him going blind, like, it's a problem, but Itachi can fight while blind, right? Like, a lot of people don't get this or understand its implication, but Itachi was blind whenever he fought Orochimaru in the 8-headed Hydra. When Orochimaru's 8-headed Hydra comes out, Itachi cannot see anymore. He comments on the 8-headed Hydra and how it feels because he doesn't know what he's looking at. He can't properly see anymore. I mean, it just makes sense too. Like, if you look earlier in the Sasuke fight, Itachi's literally looking at Sasuke, like we get a POV shot. He's looking at Sasuke, and Sasuke's in like, I don't even know like what resolution would go that low. Sasuke's in like 100p or something like that. Like, he's super low res, and then post using that little holding back Tsukuyomi he used on Sasuke then starts, not only is he low res, he starts splitting off into threes. So it's like, okay, well, if Itachi interacts with Pain, is he gonna see 18 Pains coming at him at the same time? And how does he react in a situation like that? Can his MS abilities even work on Pain? I don't know. That's why I'm saying that even if Itachi is the strongest man in the Akatsuki, him versus Pain is probably not going to be a good fight for him. If anything, he's just going to lose. Like, Itachi, like I mentioned earlier, Itachi does have underrated stamina. Like, I think people kind of throw out the fact that he, even while blind, sick, and all of this, he outlasted Curse Mark II Sasuke. He kept his Susanoo up literally until he dropped dead. Not only that, he had the chakra to do the Amaterasu seal in Sasuke's eye. He created 2 different crow clones before that fight. One to go talk to Naruto and give him the crow. One to go talk to Sasuke when Sasuke killed that one. And, you know, Itachi told him where to meet him up for the fight. So Itachi's stamina is definitely underrated. But then when you go up against someone like Pain's stamina is completely out of this world. He's got Nagato powering him. Nagato's and Uzumaki. Uzumaki just generally have extremely strong life force, which is why Nagato could revive so many people with Rene Tensei. And Konan even implies that Nagato could probably survive Rene Tensei if he didn't have so much chakra loss from using Chibaku Tensei and the chaotic Shinra Tensei, which actually drained his lifespan. So, like I said, when it comes to Itachi versus Pain, and I guess I'll wrap it up here. It's weird making an entire video on just straight one statement, but when you talk about Itachi versus Pain, or the strongest man in the Akatsuki statement, you have to take into account that even if one of them is stronger than the other, it doesn't mean that they're going to win that fight. There's different things that go into it. It's nuanced. It's complicated a little bit. So yeah, I guess that's it. Obviously, if you like the video, subscribe, blah, 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 and have a nice day.